Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Jane.
Welcome to Love Letters, Life, and Other Conversations. How have you settled back in since you flew home?
I must say that knowing that I'm coming back in March helped me be able to leave on Friday. It's been, I just need to know that I'm always coming back, or else I'm afraid I will not leave. France, how's my heart?
It gets to you like that, doesn't it?
Yes.
France. I think yesterday morning when I was doing a live Paris walk, I was a little bit pensive, I guess is the word, maybe, as I started the walk yesterday morning. And I think I said something like, "Oh, but here you are, Paris, my loyal friend. You'll never leave me." And you picked up on that and wrote a comment on Instagram later that morning. It does get to you, doesn't it?
Even the first time I went, I felt like I was at home. How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I love that.
I guess we're drawn to it because we're drawn to the food and the markets and the brocanting and the language and the culture. And because those things become passions, it just becomes a part of who we are. And people talk to me all the time about needing their Paris fix or needing their French fix, needing to breathe French air. And I was talking at book club about this very thing yesterday morning. And one of our book club members, who has only been to book club a few times, and then COVID hit, and she was in London for most of that. She lives in Paris usually, Sonia Chouquet, who some of our listeners may know. She's written so many books, but the one that I first read was I think it's called Healing in Paris. And it was after she divorced, and she and her daughter, who'd just had a pretty major breakup, I think she and her boyfriend had been going out for about 6 years. They moved to Paris together. And is it called Finding My Way Back in Paris?
Isn't it? Is it Waking Up in Paris?
Waking Up in Paris. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, Waking Up in Paris. Anyway, we were talking about this, and she said, "I am just so happy to be back in Paris." And, you know, I couldn't really get back here before now because of COVID. And then her mother died in Chicago, and so she had to go home. And so she's only been back a week. But we were talking, there were maybe 6 of us at book club yesterday, and everyone was talking about having to have that French fix.
Yes.
That, you know, if they don't get it, it's unbearable.
Right. There's a void. I love that there are different places for different people, though. Some people need their Morocco fix, and some people need their China fix, and some people need their New York fix. So I love that different places resonate with different people.
Yes.
But
yes. And thank goodness, otherwise it'd be very crowded in Paris.
yes, it would.
But it was funny because Sonia said something interesting to me yesterday morning. She said, I'm so happy to be back. And I've really missed coming to book club. And she said, I just love the communion with this group of women who all are open to really good, deep communication. And I said to her, oh, it's so funny you've just said that. I've been talking to a friend that I'm doing a podcast with, and I said to my friend Wendy last week, I'm never going back to beige. I'm only interested in the extraordinary. And it was really a strange moment because Sonia said to me, and I can't exactly remember her exact words, but she said, what you have just said is basically the title for the rewrite of my first book, Listen to Your Intuition. It's the new title. She said, I just finished writing the rewrite this morning at 5 a.m. And I said, well, we were obviously supposed to have this conversation. And she said, what's the podcast about? And I said, well, it's called Love Letters, Life and Other Conversations. And she said, oh, that's so appropriate. So what is the extraordinary? Was her question to me.
Ooh.
And I said, because I'm only interested in the extraordinary. And Wendy has another beautiful saying, which is,
I am only available for what delights me.
only available for what delights you. And you said to me last night or this morning, it's almost as if these two funny sayings, mine, I'm not going back to the beige, I'm only interested in the extraordinary. And I mean that, and I will say this straight off the bat. This has nothing to do with anything materialistic or that costs money. This is purely and simply to do with connection with people and conversations. And you said to me, why don't we just talk about those two things, that yours,
Yes.
I'm only available for
what delights me.
And mine, which is, I'm never going back to the beige. I'm only interested in the extraordinary. And your exact words were, let's talk about our love letters to ourselves.
Yes.
In our chat.
And that's so beautiful. I mean, we've talked in other recordings about this idea of giving ourselves permission to do something. And I think so often, I mean, at least I can speak for myself, for years, I've been waiting for somebody to give me permission to do what my dream is, or to, tell me what to do for my business, or, looking for someone that knows more than me, or has more money than me, or has better ideas than me to tell me what I should do. And all of that information is inside me. And once I realized that the person that I'm waiting to get permission from was me, oh, well, that just changed a lot, didn't it? So then if I'm in charge, I can say, well, I'm only available for what delights me. And that has become the new filter for what I say yes to and what
Yeah.
I can easily say no to.
Yes. And Wendy, it just seems appropriate to talk about this now because of what you've just said. But do you remember when you were here, I recited a poem that I wrote when I was 8?
Yes, I love that.
I'll recite it again in a moment. But it just struck me that what we're actually talking about now and what you've just said about you've been waiting for someone to give you permission. I shared this little poem on my Instagram stories, a couple of weeks ago. And it goes like this. I have a friend. Yes, she's a friend, for she has told me so. I tell my friend, yes, very big things that no one else would know. And if you had a friend like mine, then you'd know what I say. For some friends you can't even trust, and some are just okay. But when you have a friend like mine who never lets you down, then you should care about this friend, for they are rarely found. Now, one of my friends in Australia, actually it's one of Millie's best friend's mums, she wrote to me after I had put that up on Instagram stories. And she said, Jane, you haven't been looking for that person all your life. Because I think I had written that when I was 8, I wrote this poem and I have been searching for that person all my life. And I think I might have mentioned to you that I gave my poem to someone last year at 56, years after it was written. Anyway, my friend Megan wrote to me and she said, I don't know why you've been waiting 46 years to share that poem or give that poem to anyone. You just needed to look in the mirror to find that person. And that's exactly what you've just said,
Right.
that you've been waiting for someone to give you permission or someone to tell you that what you were doing was a great idea or correct or good and all the time, all you really needed to do was listen to that inner voice.
That's right. And it's a quantum leap. It's a shift.
Mm-hmm.
And that up level for myself has brought all of those things that I was waiting for.
Yes.
And it's turned me giving myself permission and then sharing that awakening has had a ripple effect on other people, giving themselves permission. They say, oh, is that a thing? Are you allowed to only do what delights you? And you absolutely are.
Yeah.
And I might add, I'm sorry.
About what delights you.
Right. So it doesn't mean that now I don't clean my house or do my laundry, because living in this house delights me. And there are, as you know, we both live in really old houses. Mine is much smaller than yours, but my house was built in 1785 and it needs a lot of love. And it has a lot of chores associated with it. And I love living here. It delights me. So washing windows and mopping floors and, sweeping out my barn and cleaning up after chickens and, weeding the garden, all of these things.
They delight you.
They delight me. And the people that live in this house also delight me. So I do things for them that are an extension of my joy and my love for them. And that delights me. But there are lots
Exactly.
of things that don't, and I'm not available for them anymore.
Mhm. Can you share anything that you're not available for anymore?
Oh, yes, I can. So for 30 years, I've been a wedding planner.
Mhm.
And even when I relocated from California to New England, it was my thought and desire to have an antique barn that was going to be a wedding venue. It was going to be amazing. And then I bought an antique barn and realized that it looks really pretty on Instagram, but there there's a lot of upkeep and we do it all ourselves. And
Mhm.
it just made the thing that I really love, weddings, and the thing that I really love, my barn, not a good
Mm,
fit. So now
mm,
people ask me if they can have their wedding here, and
mm.
I can very easily say, no, thank you,
No.
because it just doesn't, if the cats, the cats have been catching a lot of rodents lately.
Mhm.
And um, I just wrote on Instagram that it's not all champagne and Eiffel Towers for me. I had quite a few farm chores on
Yeah.
Sunday, but if a friend is coming over and we're going to have a glass of champagne in the barn, because
Mm,
that delights me,
mm.
and the cats have killed something and it smells in there, then we can relocate.
Yeah.
However, if that happens and someone's getting married there that day, then I have to climb underneath the barn with a headlamp looking for the carcass of some dead animal that I don't want to find. And that does not
Mhm.
delight me. So
No.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also that I can imagine that I mean my mother and by extension I was in the wedding industry for a long time as well. And the expectations of brides, rightly so,
For sure.
um, they have their dream, they have their wants, they have their not negotiable lists. Um, it's a very stressful industry,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. I didn't used to think so when I would go to a venue and I'd show up that morning and think, oh, okay, I need to fix this. I need to fix that. We can make this work. This is great. Be really resourceful, problem solve. And of course, the bride gets the beautiful day she wanted. And I worked really hard to make that happen. But there's just something different living in the space
Oh yeah,
where that
yeah.
happens, because I go through that feeling every day for 12
Mm,
months before her
mm,
wedding. So
mm,
that's just not
mhm.
going to work. But the other
No.
things that don't delight me are, not going to France. So
Yeah.
I'm going to make opportunities to do the things that fill my heart and fill my life with joy. And
Mhm,
some friendships have run their course, and
mhm.
I don't feel an obligation to stay in a relationship that is not a source of joy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I release those relationships in love for myself and
Mhm.
in love for the other people.
Mm,
And I
mm.
think, a lot of people going through the pandemic, it was a giant reset and a pause and then a reset. And we get to say yes to the things that we want to bring back into our lives
Mhm.
now that things are opening back up, but we don't have to say yes to everything.
No. No, it's given people an opportunity, hasn't it, to almost have a spring clean
Right.
um, of relationships, um, which is going to be really, really interesting to see how that all unfolds in the coming years, um, personally and globally, I guess. because we're talking about relationships not only in our own backyard, but globally. There are, countries that are going to have a shift in their relationships and in their in the way that they interact with each other.
That's very true.
Just as one-on-one, friendships and what did they say last year was the most divorces ever recorded ever.
Wow.
People were forced at home together and there wasn't that release of going to work or having space from each other during the day and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, apparently the divorce rate was huge.
That's really interesting because I think my former self would have said, oh my gosh, that's so sad. How awful. And my present self, which feels like my higher self, says, good for them. Good for them. Because I don't think that being happy is selfish. I think that you can still be responsible and contribute at your highest level. And sometimes that's together and sometimes it's apart.
Exactly. Yes, it's a whole other conversation, really, but
Sure.
I really love the fact that you said, Jane, what you say about beige and only interested in the extraordinary, and what I say about I only want to do what delights me, are love letters to ourselves, and they are. My little poem to 8-year-old Jane, which I'd never thought of that. And now I sort of think maybe I did write it to myself. Of course, I've given it away now, though, but that's okay. It can still be to myself as well.
Of course it can. And can you say more about extraordinary experiences? And, what does extraordinary mean to you? And how will you know when you're having one?
My extraordinary experiences are all to do with connection with other human beings, conversations that are brave and that delve beyond the surface. And the minute I get in one of these conversations, which I've had a lot of in the last 2 years, I just feel it right through my body. I feel a different vibration. I feel my heart begins to beat faster. My brain ticks over faster as I process. And I'm talking mainly one-on-one with this. I mean, you and I talked about it when you were here last week. And going and talking about things that you wouldn't usually talk about. I mean, you and I met in person for the first time Monday a week ago, correct?
Yes.
Now, within half an hour, we had delved into subjects that I would never in my wildest dreams 18 months ago have discussed with anyone, probably not with anyone.
Same. I did the same thing.
And that's what COVID did to me. And someone said to me recently that COVID was an accelerator. You said it to me. You said COVID was an accelerator. It was on the same Monday that we met over lunch. What good got better and what was bad got worse. And I think there's so much truth in that. So what delights me is really what I can talk about.
Right.
Because I love conversation, and I love it when you have, you just know when you have connected and there is more than surface talk.
There's an energy exchange, and sometimes
Absolutely.
it's a person you meet on the train and you
Mhm.
have this deep, rich connection, and it's, something is happening. Like there are forces at work right now that are not of this world, and you're just available.
That is forces, or do you think that that is an awakening within the person, like within your own person, that all of a sudden has opened up?
Mhm.
And rather than there being forces that we don't or can't understand, I think they've always been there. Clink the armor a little bit and let the light in. And then those extraordinary forces that were always there become part of the magic.
For sure. I have been in this practice of being available and being aligned and being aware of
Mm-hmm.
things that are happening so that I can take appropriate action. And I have found myself in these gorgeous conversations with complete strangers, or
Yeah.
beautiful conversations with people that I've known for a long time, but we've never spoken at this level. And it's
Right.
just rich. And like you, I'm really not interested in conversations that are about nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Takeaways from today, Wendy. What are your takeaways from
Oh,
this conversation today?
wow. Well, I love the things that you're committed to. I love that you are committed to the extraordinary, and the way that you are not keeping that to yourself. You're including your circle of friends into that. Another takeaway is just what I mentioned about you being open for, all of us being open for another perspective,
Yeah.
and that it's that using your intuition and trusting yourself is, you have to answer to yourself,
Yeah.
and you are responsible for your decisions, among other things, but really this is within you, and you have all that it takes to be the friend that you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I tend to agree. I mean, my takeaway from um, our love letters to ourselves is bravery. Be brave. Open your mouth. Tell someone exactly what you're thinking, because that leads to the extraordinary in terms of deeper, more meaningful conversation. And with that, the word raw just comes to mind all the time. And I don't mean raw as in raw like a lion. I mean that raw vulnerability that it takes to connect like that, to put yourself in a position where something extraordinary could happen. And of course, I love your I'm only available for what delights me. And I have used that a lot as well. What delights me? What delights me?
Good.
And I've been using that with my girls as well, and saying, you know, what is it? What is it that delights you? What is it that gets you up in the morning? Also, I think the most important point to emphasize is that the extraordinary can be the most ordinary too, because the extraordinary to me this morning was digging in my garden, finding about 24 aubergines that I just didn't even know were there. But once I started clearing the raised beds, I found all these beautiful little baby aubergines. Extraordinary. And
Right?
had a wonderful conversation with, live Instagram while I was discovering them. So the extraordinary can absolutely be the ordinary, because we still have to get out of bed each morning with purpose. And a lot of purpose is very ordinary, but what it can lead to might just be extraordinary or delightful.
That's right. I love it. Oh, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much.
I look forward to having another conversation with you very soon.
Very soon.
Okay. Toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
We have loved this conversation and sharing this love letter with you, and we would like to invite you to send us your love letters. Visit the link in the show notes to send us your letters and to join our email list. See you next week.
The thoughts of this chateau gently whisper. Trust her words and let her wisdom show.